Welcome to the Real Lost Boss podcast.
Hello, welcome to episode 26 of the Real Lost Boss podcast. And in this episode, we are going to discuss fixing your unhealthy relationship with food. It's been a big thing that I have addressed on my weight loss journey. And I truly feel I wouldn't have had the initial success I had on my weight loss journey, and I certainly wouldn't have managed to have maintained my weight loss the way I have if I hadn't have worked on my own unhealthy relationship with food and created a much better relationship with what I stick in my trap. So why do we have an unhealthy relationship with food? And you know what? This doesn't just relate to people that have a weight issue. I'm going to lay it out there. I would say 99% of society in this day and age have a real unhealthy relationship with food. And that has become ever more present to me since I've started doing a lot of stuff on social media. So why do we have this unhealthy relationship with food? Well, if we look back a little bit more, I suppose, historically, lack of education. There is pretty much zero, or there certainly was when I went to school, zero education around nutrition, around food, how it all works. And I just think it's something that's really important. Now, since I went to school, obesity has probably doubled in the UK, and there is still zero education around food and nutrition, certainly at primary school or high school level. And primary school and high school age is when our brains are literally like sponges. It's when, humans soak up so much. I mean, look at what we achieve as a human from being zero to being 2 to 3 years of age. We learn to talk, we learn to walk. It's amazing. So there is a distinct lack of education. And I honestly can't believe that's not changed as obesity gets worse and worse and worse. Also, fad diets, I'm going to hazard a timeline of around the mid-80s was when fad diets first started to come about. And then from the 90s, fad diets absolutely boomed. And one common trend with fad diets is, there's lots of common trends between all fad diets. I've discussed that in previous podcasts, but a common trend of all fad diets is, in one way or another, they create an extremely unhealthy relationship with food. Now, if we look more to present day, it's so frustrating and so annoying for me, but there seems to be a massive trend at the moment on social media of people demonizing food, fear-mongering around food, walking around supermarkets. This is going to kill you. This contains this. This contains that. And like I say, yeah, it's so frustrating because for every one good creator out there, and there's a good few, that give some, brilliant advice on how weight loss actually works, how nutrition actually works. They're more than happy to tell the truth and really work on, educating people. For every one of those, there seems to be 10 creators that are just doing the complete opposite. Like I said, fear-mongering, scaring people without any evidence. And that's what is so frustrating. Or, they'll quote a study from Harvard University or a study from Sydney University that isn't peer-reviewed, it isn't non-biased, it's funded by a certain industry. And they'll go, this study on 10 people from Harvard University showed this, this, and this. It's all nonsense, There are some real, red flags. One red flag to me is when people come, scientifically proven. This is scientifically proven. Scientifically proven means nothing, right? Unless it's a controlled, peer-reviewed study We can't look at it. And most things, or, studies that are run that are very biased or don't have any context or balance to them, it's propaganda that is, like I say, privately funded. You could get any, scientist, as it were, that works at a university, go up to him and go, right, I'm going to chuck you a few quid. What I need you to do is say, this does this, and they'll do it. Especially in America, because everything is privately funded in America. There are, we watch documentaries, again, propaganda documentaries, like Game Changers that come out a few years ago on Netflix that was extremely pro-vegan. And they use scientists and doctors. All those scientists and doctors in that film are funded or have investments in plant-based products. They are invested heavily in the plant-based market. And that's where the bias comes from. And, people go, yeah, because he's a scientist or he's a doctor, he's going to tell the truth. No, there's a lot of scientists and a lot of doctors out there that are interested in one thing. And this is the same with why so many people are demonizing foods on social media. It's money. It's money over morals. We live in a society where controversy, negativity will drive more engagement than the truth will. It's why the news is so full of negativity, because it gets way more viewers being like that than it would do if the news was full of positivity. And unfortunately, engagement and views on social media leads to followers. And if that influencer is a clever person, then you can convert followers into money. Now, I'm not saying, I do social media to promote my business. Of course, I'm not saying that people shouldn't use social media to promote their business. That's advertising. People use TV, people now use social media, but people are basically lying. They're more than happy to lie. I just can't do that. I can't do that. I've suffered enough with obesity, a poor relationship with food for so long. I couldn't live with myself knowing that, yeah, I've got tons of money in the bank, but I've got that because I have literally took advantage of vulnerable people. I said this from the beginning of my weight loss journey. I've got a jar here of gut gummies from My Protein. And I've always said this, I've got my before and after pictures, and I used to be over 500 pounds. I've lost half my body weight. I could quite easily have come out onto social media and said that I've lost my body weight through, taking a gummy like this gut gummy that I've got here. And this gut gummy is just a probiotic, but I could literally create something like this, put a new label on a jar and say, I've found this magic herb or leaf from the Amazon rainforest. It's only just been discovered. I've managed to get the patent on it. And in 2014, I started taking an extract of this leaf. And what it's done for me is it's suppressed my appetite. It's done this, it's done that. It's increased fat burning in my body. And over the last 3.5 years of taking this extract from this leaf, I've lost 250 pounds. I've now taken this extract and formulated it into a delicious, tasty gummy that you need to take first thing in the morning, first thing at night, and you will have the same weight loss success that I've had. I could quite easily have done that, and I'd have made a lot of money out of it. And don't get me wrong, I'd have got found out sooner rather than later, but until I got found out, I'd have made a good amount of money out of it. And there you go, and that's it, done and dusted. We're all good. And then obviously you put in the small print, just to let you know, this gut gummy will only help you, oh, not gut gummy, but you know what I mean, this extract will help you as part of a calorie-controlled diet alongside improving your overall lifestyle. And that's the disclaimer of how a lot of people get out of it. Anyway, yeah, it is frustrating, and a lot of, unhealthy relationships with food. Like I say, there's people like me that speak the truth, don't lie, and can sleep well at night time. I'm not saying these people don't sleep well at night time, but yeah, like I say, for every one of us, there seems to be 10 or so people that really want to demonize foods. In fact, what I'll do is in the description of this podcast, I'll just put some names in there of people that, alongside me, that I feel are well worth a follow on social media to help you with your relationship with food. Anyway, why I'm doing this podcast is a few weeks ago on my social channels, TikTok, Instagram Reels, Facebook Reels, I posted a video. In fact, I'll play it now. So I posted this video.
5 classic signs you have an unhealthy relationship with food. Number 1, you label food as good or bad, or food that makes me fat and food that makes me thin. Number 2, you completely banish certain types of foods, i.e. chocolate, biscuits, or takeaways, or certain food groups like whole macronutrients like carbs out of your regular diet. Number 3, you label certain foods with very negative terminology, i.e. sugar is poison. Number 4, you use food as a coping mechanism to soothe or distract from certain negative emotions. And number 5, last but by no means least, eating certain foods cause you waves of guilt, stress, anxiety during or after eating them. So the question is, do you have an unhealthy relationship with food? Because if you do, it is something you certainly need to work on if you want to have a successful weight loss journey.
And from that video, I got an absolutely, I don't mean a fantastic response, because it's quite heartbreaking to see how many people have an unhealthy relationship with food. I knew that already, to be honest with you, from my own experience and journey. But, you know, it was so many people. I've edited it for this podcast, but I actually asked in that video, if any of these relate to you, let me know in the comments. And the amount of people that were like, yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, they're just everything relates to them. So anyway, what I'm going to do now in this podcast is I'm going to go through each of those points and I'll try and break them down for you, try and get you to understand. I'm always a massive believer in, and I have been from the day I started personal training really, which is when I really started to look more into weight loss and how weight loss works, and really started to delve in to the full mechanisms of it. You know, obviously, pre-2018, when I qualified as personal trainer, weight loss was my life. It became a passion of mine, hence why I went down the route of becoming a personal trainer and now an online coach. As always, if you would like me to be your one-to-one coach, you want me to work with you directly to improve your relationship with food, just like many of my clients have. Again, I'll put all the links in the description of this podcast. You can jump on my one-to-one plan or just join my community. Both of those are really going to help you. I'm a big believer in a community when it comes to improving things, especially like weight loss. I've always said this, it's one of only one positive really of Slimming World is I do love the community aspect of it, and that's what I'm trying to create with the Real Loss Boss. So yeah, all the details will be in the description. But yeah, I'll go through each of these points. And yeah, from becoming a personal trainer, it's when I really started to delve into how weight loss works. So pre-2018, I was still working and improving my relationship with food, but I didn't quite know why I was doing it. Obviously, post-2018, qualifying as a PT, and really understanding how weight loss works, educating myself massively in nutrition, weight loss in general. And then obviously my experience now of, if I actually count people that have joined my community and people that have come onto my one-to-one plan, so people that I have in some way, shape or form worked with directly, that is now well over 1,000 people. So that has just given me the knowledge and the experience to help. But my relationship with food didn't really improve until I worked on or gained a lot more knowledge around weight loss. So, like I say, pre-2018, I knew I was improving my relationship with food. I knew things were better. But like I say, I didn't quite know why that was happening. Now I know exactly why that was happening. And I'm a big believer in you can't solve a problem unless you realize you've got a problem. And sometimes that's very hard for people to accept. So anyway, let's go through these points. So number one of those points, labeling food as good or bad, or labeling foods that make you fat and make you thin. This is very relatable to me from the first time I was dragged to a dietitian with my obesity as a kid. I can't remember the exact date, but I'm going to guess 1989, maybe 1990. It was something like, I was still at primary school. And it was my second primary school. The first primary school I went to actually shut down. The headmaster had a heart attack, I think, from memory, and they couldn't replace the headmaster. It was quite a small school in a rural area, and they shut it down. So I got moved to another school, and it was after, I think that was 1988. And as I can remember, it was a long time ago. Yeah, the second primary school I went to, I've probably been there about a year, and they referred me, they had a chat with my mum and said, look, I think you need to take Neil to the GP because of his weight issue. I think they used to have, not maybe a school nurse, but I think someone came in and had, sort of had a look at the overall health of the kids in the school. And obviously I was picked out because I was morbidly obese at 9-10 years of age. Anyway, went to the GP, and then the GP referred me to a dietitian, and it was so black and white. It was just, I remember sitting in the office and my mum getting this list. Neil should eat this, Neil can't eat that. There was no balance, there was no context. And, that's from a dietitian. That's someone with a degree in nutrition that's just like, bang, this is how it is. And straight away from that for me personally was like, this food makes me thin, this food makes me fat, the food that makes me fat is bad, the food that makes me thin is good. And again, just an absolute massive lack of education. But I think that is such a common trend in society. If I held up, again, to anyone, it doesn't matter whether they've got a weight issue or not. If I held up, by the way, I'm going to go through all these points. There's going to be quite a lot of crossover. So reasons why you struggle with point one will be the same for point two and three. Maybe, there will be quite a lot of crossover. So maybe a little bit of repetition. But if I just went out into a town centre and I created, I took a double cheeseburger that's 440 calories, and I then created a grilled chicken salad that was 440 calories. And I just went round to random people and said, what's better for fat loss? Right, the cheeseburger, and they'd all point to the chicken salad. And we have this like notion, chicken salad, salads, is healthier. And I think this is where it comes from. Healthy food causes weight loss, and it doesn't. It really, really doesn't. And I thought like this for years and years and years. And I'll be honest with you, I thought like this up until, although I started my weight loss journey in 2014, I kind of had this mindset till 2018, 2019, 2020, when I really started to delve into how nutrition worked and weight loss really, really worked. And in my eyes, 2014, 2015, 2016, 2017, the initial sort of years of my weight loss, I just worked on balance. I was kind of like, if I eat more foods that make me thin than foods that make me fat, then overall, I'm going to get thinner. That was kind of my mindset. Now I understand the education around calories. The only thing that causes fat loss is consuming less calories than you burn. The only thing that causes fat gain is consuming more calories than you burn. What your calories are made up of, I did say that right. Anyway, yeah, I'm going to, just because in my mind I'm like, did I say that right? Just to confirm. Fat loss is created by consuming less calories than you burn. Fat gain is created by consuming more calories than you burn. I think I said it right first time around, but just in case I didn't, let me just repeat myself. I will be repeating myself a bit anyway. And what your calories are made up of will determine your health. So if you eat a double cheeseburger that's 440 calories and you eat a grilled chicken salad that's 440 calories, it's 440 calories. And in terms of fat loss and fat gain, that's what your body sees. So we need to stop labeling those foods. But like I say, society, lack of education, lack of knowledge, and just an overall thought process. This makes me fat, this makes me thin, and it creates such an unhealthy relationship with food. And then we've got fad diets that are creeping in, or not creeping in, that have been around for years and years and years. But those fad diets, from them creeping into our lifestyle to then becoming our lifestyle, as it were, cement that even more. Sins at Slimming World. When you sin something, it is like, this is a bad food. But very similar to my thought process around food. But if I limit the amount of bad food or the amount of food that makes me fat and consume more foods that make me thin, it creates, an overall balance of weight loss. But yeah, it just doesn't work like that. Okay, second one, you completely banish food types, food groups, or complete macronutrients from your diet. So a macronutrient is proteins, fats, or carbs. So for example, if you do the ketogenic diet, you cut carbs out. When I say food types or food groups, food types might be, I'm never eating chocolate ever again, I'm never eating crisps ever again. And food groups might be something like, I'm never having a takeaway ever again. And it's just going to extremes. And again, what happens there is we have this, and this relates back to number one, food that's good, food takeaways, bad, fat food, foods that make me fat. So we need to get rid of them. Chocolate, food that makes me fat. Biscuits, crisps, food that makes me fat. Fad diets, the Atkins diet that sort of boomed maybe about 10, 15 years ago, and that sort of disappeared now, and it is the ketogenic diet. And a more extreme version of the ketogenic diet that I'm seeing a lot of on social media at the moment is the carnivore diet. So at least with the ketogenic diet, people might eat things like some green veggies, they might eat mushrooms, although vegetables are a carbohydrate, and obviously the ketogenic diet is not consuming carbs. Certain vegetables are extremely low. So your green leafy vegetables, your salad sort of stuff. So you would still eat, lettuce and stuff like that generally on a ketogenic diet. You might even have certain berries and stuff on a ketogenic diet, whereas the carnivore diet is literally meat and dairy is kind of what it is. So yeah, butter, cream, eggs, and then meat, and mainly red meat, a lot of red meat. But that is then just creating this really unhealthy relationship with food, because what cements it is when you go on to a no carb diet. How a no carb diet works is really, really simple. I did this the other day. I was going through my food diary on a TikTok live. And basically, for most people, the majority of their diet is carbohydrates. Now, I focus on having a very high protein diet, but even for someone like me that focuses on having a very high protein diet, still 50% of my diet overall will be carbohydrates. Carbs are life. They're an essential macronutrient that's very, very good for us. And remember, carbohydrates is a blanket term. I think when we say carbs, we also have to go bread, pasta, sugar. No, carbs covers fruit, it covers veggies, it covers pulses, it covers whole grains, it covers legumes, or certain legumes. Of course, sugar is a carbohydrate as well. So it's kind of like a blanket term. So, when you say a no carb diet, or when you say carbs make you fat, it's like that's more relating to things like crisps and cakes and stuff like that for a lot of people. Whereas the thought process that lentils and pulses and beans and oats make you fat is again, maybe goes back to that food that makes you thin, food that makes you fat kind of thing. But yeah, banishing anything. And then if so, yeah, 50% of my diet is carbohydrates. So if I consume an average 2,500 calories a day and suddenly I go on a zero carb diet, I'm halving my calorie intake. Right? Now, don't get me wrong, some of those carb calories I am going to replace with some extra proteins and fats, but I'm certainly not going to replace, all of those calories with extra proteins and fat. Why? Because fat on the whole isn't that appealing or appetizing on its own, right? You generally need a carbohydrate to make a fat taste good. So think about having a piece of butter in your mouth. It's not something I would ever want to eat, right? But spread that bit of butter on some nice crusty bread and I'm salivating. Same with cheese. Now, we love cheese. I absolutely love cheese. But, just gnawing on a block of cheese might sound appealing, but to consume a lot of cheese that way ain't going to happen. Take a block of cheese and stick, a few Jacob's cream crackers in there, and I'm like, let's go. So, that's how a no carb diet works. Is it just puts you into a pretty hefty calorie deficit. But we when we go on to these crazy fad diets that demonize food, we put 2 and 2 together and get 5. So it's literally like, right, now I've cut carbs out, I'm losing loads of weight. Carbs automatically make me fat. That's the kind of thing. And the honest truth is, there is no need. Again, this reverts back to calories in, calories out. The education around how weight loss works. No food makes you fat. No food makes you thin. It's all about energy balance. Now, obviously, there are certain foods that are more calorie dense, so they're easier to overconsume, just like there are certain foods that are a lot more nutritious and less calorie dense, and they're harder to overconsume. But still, it is all about balance. Right, number 3 of those points. You label foods with very negative terminology. So, a common one at the moment, and this is a food that is massively demonized, is sugar is poison. And if I put any post on where something contains the slightest bit of sugar, whether it's lactose, which is the naturally occurring sugars in dairy, fructose, the naturally occurring sugars in fruit, or it is, like a more processed sugar like castor sugar or a table sugar, I'll get at least one. Sugar is poison. I've done it this week, again, on social media. I've done a little video of some sweet treats, under 100 calories. If you over-restrict yourself, it is scientifically proven, non-biased, peer-reviewed studies, scientifically proven. You just said at the beginning of this live, Neil, if it's scientifically proven, it's a big red flag. Maybe I said that wrong. Basically, yeah, if it's scientifically proven without a PMID code, so it's a non-biased, peer-reviewed study. If it's just some random scientist that's claiming something, yeah, so it should be, non-biased, peer-reviewed, and there is a lot of non-biased, peer-reviewed studies on, on. I've lost my train of thought. It doesn't take much sometimes. Right, anyway, you label, that was it. Sugar is poison. Let's get back into it, Neil. Sugar is poison. So, if you're labeling sugar is poison, that was it. There is non-biased peer-reviewed studies that show that if you over-restrict yourself, so this might revert back to number 2 where you cut out whole food groups. If you over-restrict yourself, it leads to initial weight loss, but it will lead to that weight coming back and more. So I do like to promote, if people go, I'm never eating chocolate ever again, well, let's have a better mindset and say, It's not that I'm never going to eat chocolate ever again. I'm just going to eat chocolate in a more responsible fashion. Yes, that takes willpower. It takes learning some self-control, and that does take time. But if you put the effort in to learn some self-control, again, it will massively improve your relationship with food, and it will stop you missing out. I always get this. I'll put things like 65 calorie crisps or 80 calorie, 90 calorie, chocolate biscuit. Like I always call them single wrapper biscuits, because if I open up a packet of Hobnobs, I'm going to demolish that packet of Hobnobs. But if I just open up a single packet, so something like a Blue Ribbon or a Rocky or a Gold Bar, I just open that one packet up. As long as the other packets aren't open, I've learned that self-control. So, or you can get the little bag now, the 99 calorie bags or 98 calorie bags of mini cookies or Cadbury's mini fingers and stuff like that. And they're just enough. And you do get people commenting going, that won't even touch the sides, Neil. That's not even, that won't even touch the sides of what? You should not be eating crisps and chocolate to fill you up. If you're hungry, eat food that's going to fill you up. Why I like some crisps and chocolate is because I do get some sweet cravings. I do sometimes like something that's really tasty on my taste buds, and crisp crunch, bit of salt. Again, that sweetness, I like it. Right, but I want to do that in a more controlled fashion. So by having a 65 calorie bag of crisps combined with a 98 calorie bag of Maryland mini cookies, I've got, for less than 170 calories, I've got some crisps and chocolate. And this is where we go wrong sometimes, portion size, portion control, is out the window. Well, we do need to learn some self-control. I'll cover that in a future podcast. Anyway, so yeah, I did these like under 100 calorie single wrapper biscuits, and you get it straight away. Oh, sugar is poison. Why are you putting that into your body? Something we need to understand is everything is poisonous to the human body at a certain level. As the saying goes, the devil is in the dose. So if you drink too much water, so you get overhydrated. If you are overhydrated, what that can do is flush out essential minerals that need to be in your body for it to function properly. Right? Now, I'm not saying it's going to be stupidly detrimental to your health if you get overhydrated, but there is a little bit of a level. So, if you are overhydrated, water that is an extremely good for us substance that we would die if we didn't have it, would then be detrimental to your health. Now, I don't want you to panic. Oh my God, am I getting overhydrated? I don't want you to panic. Why? Because it is extremely hard to get overhydrated, but at a certain level, water will become toxic to the body or detrimental to your health. Likewise, if you eat so much broccoli, you go into a calorie surplus, broccoli will make you fat, and that is detrimental to your body. Likewise, if you consume too much chocolate, that will make you fat, and that will be detrimental to your body. One thing we need to understand, and again, this will really work on creating a healthy relationship with food, is certain things are very hard to overconsume that will be detrimental or to your health or to the human body, or will become a poison. So, for example, water is going to be very hard for most people to overconsume, so it becomes, a poison to the body, as it were. Likewise, it's going to be very, very hard to overconsume broccoli to make you fat, right? Is it easy to overconsume chocolate to put you into calorie surplus? Of course it is. But the devil is always in the dose. Every single food source out there, whether it's crisps and chocolate, cake, biscuits, pizza, or it's lettuce, cucumber, onion, can be consumed at a certain level, and you can be perfectly healthy. Okay. So these people that go around, sugar is poison. No, too much sugar in the body might be classed as a poison if that's the way you want to consume it. But like I said, just like too much broccoli in the human body, sugar is something that is quite easy to overconsume. And all we need to do is just be a bit more aware. That's it. You don't need to cut it out. You don't need to go to an extreme. But a lot of people make out, again, these supermarket warriors, this contains 1 teaspoon of sugar. Oh no, shock, horror, a teaspoon of sugar, right? Again, this is massively creating an unhealthy relationship in people's mindset. For most healthy adults, right, as long as you've got no issues around insulin resistance or issues around your blood sugar levels, right, and we have to accept this, there's 70, 80 million people in the UK, and 4 million of those are diabetic. So, don't get me wrong, 4 million is a lot of people, but this relates to about 95% of the adult population in the UK. If you are, diabetic in any form, so gestational diabetes, pre-diabetic, type 2, type 1, then yes, you need to watch the amount of sugars you consume because you've got issues with high blood sugars and you're trying to reverse your insulin. Again, if you're any type of diabetic, it doesn't mean you can't consume some sugar. You just have to be responsible with it, like anyone does really, but obviously a bit more responsible with it. But for most people, on average, an adult can consume 90 grams of sugar a day. That does include total sugars, so that does include lactose, fructose, and sucrose, but can consume 90 grams of sugar a day. That's 18 teaspoons of sugar. So if I have something for my breakfast that has 1 teaspoon in, it's not really detrimental to my health. If I have something for breakfast that has 1 teaspoon of sugar in, something for lunch that has 3 teaspoons of sugar in, I have some fruit mid-afternoon that's equivalent of 2 teaspoons of sugar, 10 grams of sugar, what's that? 1, 3, 2, we're at 6, right? And then for my tea, I have something that has 2 teaspoons of sugar in, right? We're at 8. And then at night time, again, I might have a bit more fruit, or I might have, a glass of not squash, but, maybe a glass of fresh orange. I might have a glass of fresh orange for breakfast. But if you consume 10 teaspoons of sugar a day, which is 50 grams of total sugars, you're perfectly healthy. You're consuming sugar at a level that isn't going to be detrimental to your health. And if you are combining that with an overall healthy lifestyle, you are all good. So if you've got wrapped up into this, that's a poison, that's this, that's that, that's something that you need to work on. Like I said, the devil is always in the dose. Number 4, use food as a coping mechanism to soothe or distract from negative emotions. So this is a different type of relationship with food. So the first 3 there is all about the mentality of food, as it were. This is the mentality of food. But the first 3 are, it's this labeling food around food that makes me fat, food that makes me thin. And actually the first 3 points will relate to massively to number 5. But using food as a coping mechanism to distract or soothe negative emotions, this is emotional eating. And if you are an emotional eater, that's another level of having an unhealthy relationship with food. If you use anything as a coping mechanism, you have an unhealthy relationship with it. So that could be drugs, it could be alcohol, it could be gambling, it could be, it could be shutting yourself away from the world. If you're agoraphobic and you just lock yourself in your 4 walls, that is and that's your coping mechanism to get through life. That's a really unhealthy relationship. And an unhealthy relationship with anything is never going to lead to a happy person. Now, a lot of people that have a weight issue, and I think this is more prevalent the more severe your weight issue is, use food as a coping mechanism. I did it for years. When I was sad, I ate. When I was stressed, I ate. When I was angry, I ate. When I was lonely, I ate. Because food was always there for me. It never let me down. It was always something I could rely on. Now, it doesn't mean that food wasn't, like I say, detrimental to my health. But Yeah, I did use it as a food, as a coping mechanism. You know, I was a binge eater. I had binge eating disorder, and I used to binge on Sundays. And really, the more I've talked about it, the more it's come conscious to me that my binge eating was a lot more severe than I thought it was. Because I've always talked about this. When I used to binge eat on a Sunday, why did I binge eat on a Sunday? It was a very tough day for me. And it was kind of my loneliest day. It was my most stressful day. And I know this sounds daft and it might not be relative to anyone else, but I hated life, right? I didn't like life. I was existing. I wasn't living. I did go through several periods throughout my life where I didn't want to be here anymore, and I used to really, really struggle. And I think my worst periods was always Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. I don't know why. It was just kind of a reality to me of what my life actually was. Because Friday, Saturday, as well as using food as a coping mechanism, I used to use alcohol. And you know, although I've got some fond memories of having a bit of a laugh, that is counterbalanced massively by the negativity that was in my life, in my head at the time. So obviously I used to drown out things with food and alcohol Friday, Saturday, but then on a Sunday, it was kind of facing reality of Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, because Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursdays, I very rarely saw anyone. I obviously didn't drink alcohol to get me through those days. And that used to drag me massively down on a Sunday. So to get me through this massive down slump on a Sunday, I would just eat all day. So I used to eat crisps, cheesecakes, drink pop. And I never thought of this actually. That was, and I used to say that was my binge in the afternoon. But then I always used to get a huge takeaway at night time. And if I'm being honest with you, that was just a continuation. So I probably went on a Sunday from dinner time till 8, 9 o'clock at night, just constantly feeding myself as a distraction from the week ahead. Because I just didn't want it to come. You know, I just didn't want it to come. So, yeah, emotional eating is going to lead to a very unhealthy relationship with food because obviously if we are not eating just because we're hungry, right? And that's, you know, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what size you are, how big you are. Yes, certain people's appetites are more than others, but how I ended up being 37 stone was because I ate when I was hungry, but I also ate to soothe my emotions. And obviously, I had negative emotions swimming around in my head all day, every day, which meant I constantly ate. Now, I didn't eat the amount of calories that some people think an overweight person, and you might be like, well, you're in denial, Neil. I'm not, because weight gain is maths and science. I always say this, I always talk about My 600 Pound Life. I don't know if you've ever seen it on TLC. And they always do a little, like, is it a monologue or a montage or whatever it is at the beginning of what this 600 pound person eats on a day-to-day basis, or they make out this is what this person eats on a day-to-day basis. And you know, they might order 6 breakfast sandwiches, as the Americans call them, which for us would be a sausage and egg McMuffin. So they'd order 6 of those, that gets delivered. And then lunchtime, they'd make their own food and they'd have a pile of food this big. And then at night time, they'd order 3 pizzas and they'd have that delivered. The honest reality is they sort of show that this person's eating 10, 12,000 calories a day. Now, someone that's 600 pounds plus is going to burn a stupid amount of calories. Of course they are. But the reality is that if someone ate 10,000 calories, if someone 600 pounds ate 10,000 calories every day, they gain a pound of weight a day. So these people aren't gaining 365 pounds in a year, right? They're not. I gained from being 21 to start my weight loss journey at 33, so over a 12-year period, I gained about 7 stone. So, you know, again, if we work out the mass of that, 7 stone is 350,000 calories. So over 12 years, I consumed 350,000 calories more than I should have done to gain that weight. And if we then divide that by 12, it's about 30, forgive my math, but about 30, let's freeze 30,000 calories a year. And then if we divide that by 12, we're at what? 2,500 calories. So a month. So I basically ate 2,500 calories a month more than I should have done. That is not, now I would have burnt 4,000 to 5,000 calories a day. So that's roughly what I was eating, or a little bit more than that. So was I eating 10, 12, and I was over 500 pounds? No. There's also the reality, again, of if people ate the way they are shown on this like start of my 600, they couldn't afford it. They couldn't, right? They're literally spending 50, 60, 70 pounds a day on food. You times that by 7, are they really spending a couple of grand a month on food? I mean, maybe they are, but I very much doubt it. Anyway, so yeah, if you are, every time you get home from work and you've had a bad day at work, you soothe yourself with food. Every time your kids are peeing you off, you soothe yourself with food. Every time you get bad news, you might get a phone call that unfortunately a relative or a parent or someone's got a bad illness, or you might get, if you're using food to get you through these times, right? Basically, if you're being detrimental to your own health to just try and get you through life, which is basically what we're doing, the amount of clients I get, and I'm not blaming them because I understand it, but people go, I can't concentrate on weight loss at the moment because I've just got this news. So it's like, you've just got the news that, and this is the way we think, because I did this for years. So you've just got the news that one of your family members is very, very poorly, and to cope or to get you through, you're gonna banish your own health because of their poor health. In reality, it doesn't make sense, but it's what we do because our coping mechanism is food. And if I'm on a weight loss journey, I'm trying to either cure that coping mechanism or take it out of my life. And I'm like, I need it. So like I say, you banish your weight loss journey because you want to rely on food. And it's something that it is a really bad relationship. Like I say, using anything as a coping mechanism to soothe a negative thing isn't good. All right, the last one, which I think this will absolutely resonate with so many of you, getting waves of guilt, stress or anxiety either during or after eating certain foods. Such a common one. It really, really is. And I had this for years, and it kind of, that vicious circle. I eat because I'm overweight because I eat, and we've got to break that circle. So, I might, talking about my binges on Sunday, that the guilt of, and that's kind of why I was doing it. It's a bit like a self-harm sort of thing. But, even during the week, I'd go to work and I might go and get a chippy dinner. Unhealthy relationship with food. I don't want to be fat. Fish and chips makes me fat. So after I've eaten it, yes, it tastes amazing while I'm eating it. But then afterwards, I'm feeling guilty. That guilt is driving stress up in my body. How do I cope with stress? I emotionally eat, so then I go back to food. And it's just a vicious circle that needs breaking. And it is, if you get waves of guilt, stress, anxiety, a lot of people get, why I put anxiety in there, this might be something that is more prevalent if you are on a weight loss journey. And I do get this quite a lot, where Christmas time, people are so scared of Christmas because of the food. Like, they're anxious about the damage they're going to do to their weight loss journey. Likewise, I'll get clients messaging me during the week. I've got a meal out on Saturday night. I'm really panicking about it. You should never be panicking about going out for a meal. I sort of message them back going, what's the meal for? It's to celebrate my dad's 60th. You should be looking forward to that. It's my dad's 60th birthday. We're going to go out. We're going to have some nice food, maybe a couple of drinks. you shouldn't be anxious about it, because all you're going to do is, how was your dad's 60th? Yeah, it was all right. You're going to play it down, because the guilt of just having, you might go to an Italian and just having a spaghetti bolognese and a couple of pieces of garlic bread and a glass of wine is just going to ruin what should be a happy thought process. It should be, yeah, but, oh, it was brilliant. We had a really nice meal. We had a really good laugh. The food there was delicious. I highly recommend it. Whereas if you're talking like that to someone about it, but deep down you're like, yeah, but I ate carbs. Oh my God, I had garlic bread. Oh my God, I drank some alcohol. It's just not a place to be. And why I say this unhealthy relationship with food at the beginning of this podcast will drag you back, because it is that overriding guilt, or, you do brilliantly for 6-7 weeks in your mind because you've over restricted yourself, which isn't doing brilliantly, right? And then as soon as you go out for a nice meal, something like that, it's like, well, what's the point? I've blown it. And this is all down generally to an unhealthy relationship with food. Because if you didn't have an unhealthy relationship with food, you'd see food for exactly what it is. So how did I cure my unhealthy relationship with food? I'm not saying this will work for every one of you, because obviously we're all individuals, but this worked to cure my unhealthy relationship with food. And I'm telling you now, just being in a position now where you can look forward to things. Food has never tasted as good to me as it has probably over the last 4 or 5 years. I'm not even talking about the beginning of my weight loss journey. I'm talking since I've got this education around understanding calories make me, calories in, calories out is what controls my body fat. And as soon as you start eating things within your calorie allowance, irrelevant of what it is, as long as you can grasp that and understand that, right? It just makes everything taste better. Once you create a healthy relationship with food, it keeps you, or you are so much more positive around it. So at the initial part of my weight loss journey, when my education around weight loss wasn't great, to be honest with you, how I created a healthy relationship or improved on my relationship with food was just being consistent on my journey. From the start of my journey, which I've talked about in previous podcasts, I never wanted to over restrict myself. I wanted to do things differently than I'd ever done in the past. So before, when I tried to lose weight, I was all the things I was saying there. I'm never going to eat a takeaway ever again because they make me fat. Yeah. So on and so forth. But I was like, no, I kind of went into it with this balance. If food that makes me fat makes up a small part of my journey, right, and foods that make me thin make up the biggest part of my journey, that overriding balance is going to be I will get thin, right? Or I will get thinner, or I will lose weight, right? I'm not saying I wanted to be thin, if I'm being honest with you. I don't really like using the words thin and skinny. That's not the be all and end all of a successful weight loss journey. It really, really isn't. But that was the mindset I went into. And I've sort of said this, the first big stamp for me was October 2014. I didn't weigh myself throughout the first 8, 9, 10 months of my weight loss journey because I didn't have a scales that would weigh me. I knew I weighed about 37 stone at the start of my journey. And I weighed myself, I was like 234 kilos. And I weighed myself in October because the scales in the doctors only went up to 200 kilos. And the first time I jumped on them was the end of October. And I was 188 kilos. Right, so I dropped 46 kilograms, 100 pounds. I dropped 100 pounds. And that was my first stepping stone to create this healthy relationship with food, because it made me realize that this fat, thin balance of food was working. Now, again, I'm not saying that is the healthiest relationship with food, but that's where my mindset was. And I remember, sitting in my car and analyzing things afterwards and going, I've lost 100 pounds. And I have eaten pizza, I've eaten Chinese, I've had some fish and chips, I've had a few beers most Friday nights, I've enjoyed a couple of holidays. So all these things that I associate with making me fat, I have done. But overall, I've done a lot more that makes me thin, like exercise, like walking, like eating healthier foods. And that is the balance I need to stick to. Now that drove me on. Like I say, when I became a personal trainer and I started understanding calories in, calories out, that just took it to another level. And what you need to do, the honest truth is, what you need to do is when it comes to this improving your relationship with food, is even if you don't want to calorie count to lose weight, I'm not saying you have to. Trust me, if you do it correctly, it is the best way you will ever lose weight. But I understand some people are a bit apprehensive about it because you can't leave your old fad diets behind, or you're just not sure about it, fear of the unknown. But if you, and this has worked for me and this has worked for so many of my clients, which although I say it's not a one thing fits all, but it's worked for me. And like I say, if it's worked for the majority of my clients, I've got to say it's going to work for most of you guys as well, is understanding your calorie intake. This is how many calories I burn on average, right? And as long as I eat less than that, I'm going to lose weight. And if I eat roughly 3,500 calories a week less than I burn, that will equal, on average, a pound of fat loss, right? That is the basis of a weight loss journey. If you go into a bigger calorie deficit, you'll lose more body fat. If you have a smaller calorie deficit, you'll lose less body fat. But that is thermodynamics, and that is consuming less calories than you burn. And if it's about 500 calories a day on average, or 3,500 calories less over a week, that will equal a pound of body fat. And it doesn't matter what those calories are made up of. If you burn 17,500 calories in a week and you consume 14,000 calories of anything, right? If you can do that consistently, you will lose body fat. Do I recommend you lose weight by solely eating McDonald's? Absolutely not. I will always promote a healthy, balanced diet, but obesity is always going to be the number one health issue. So in all honesty, if someone's currently 30 stone, I'm not really that bothered how they get down to being 14, 15 stone, because irrelevant of how they do it in a way, in terms of what they're consuming, someone that's 15 stone, even if they've not got a great diet, is miles healthier than someone that is 30 stone. But obviously, I would like you to use some balance. And I think that for me is one of the keys to creating this unhealthy relationship with food, is that balance. Is, yeah, eating healthy foods that are going to fill you up, that are going to energize you, that are going to make you nutritious. But the balance is you've got to free your mind and build in some of the foods you love. I still work with people and they struggle to grasp that concept. They do struggle to, build some chocolate in, build some crisps in, build a takeaway in. And I think they struggle to build that in because, again, they don't have confidence in themselves that they're not going to overeat. And you might overeat at the start of the journey. It's not a quick fix. It's always going to be a work in progress. But if you are consistent, so if you can stick to a 3,500 calorie deficit per week for 12 weeks, that is going to equal around about a stone of weight loss, right? And if after 12 weeks you can sit there, a bit like I did when I sat in my car after not weighing for 10 months and losing 100 pounds, if you can sit there and analyze and go, do you know what? I have lost a stone in the last 12 weeks and I have eaten this, this, and this, right? And I've still lost a stone. I've enjoyed a night out. I've been for a nice meal. I've had Chinese couple of nights with the kids on the sofa. We've had a pizza. I have had the odd random McDonald's, but I have been consistent with sticking to my calories. That is the first stepping stones, because what you'll start to realize is I can eat these foods and lose weight. So if you accept some education around weight loss and really try and absorb certainly things that I'm talking about, like I say, I will put some other creators, influencers, accounts in the description of this podcast of other people that will also help you understand, a better relationship with food and eating. And then it's just time. Because if you're then consistent for another 12 weeks, you've now gone 24 weeks and you're like, I've done this, this, and this. If you're then consistent for another 12 weeks, you can be like, I've done this, this, and this, and I've had a holiday, and I've done this. You go another 12, you get over a year, you're like, do you know what? In the last 12 months, I've lost 4 stone in weight. I've enjoyed Christmas. I've enjoyed another holiday. I've had a weekend away. I've celebrated my mum and dad's wedding anniversary. I've celebrated my birthday. I've celebrated Chantel's birthday. I've done this, this, and this, right? But one thing I can say is over the last 12 months, I have been in a calorie deficit more often than not. I've put the effort in. I've worked hard. And it will just, it will slowly creep in that you don't need to demonize food. You don't need to label food that makes you fat, food that makes you thin, because it just doesn't work like that. The amount of people that will try and convince you otherwise, like I say, are just trying to create attention, engagement, follows, clicks by being controversial. But the honest truth is, calories in, calories out is what creates fat loss, fat gain, right? What we eat contributes to our overall health. And if they try and merge the two together in terms of, you might be in a calorie deficit, but if that calorie deficit is pizza, you won't lose any body fat, blah, 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 blah. They are lying to you. Block them. That's the big thing. Block every social media platform, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. They all have an amazing feature. It's called block. Block out the haters. Add the people that are going to contribute to your weight loss journey in a more positive fashion. And like I say, building a healthy relationship with food is definitely a big part of it. Time, patience is a virtue. We've done a podcast on that. It does take time. You won't cure it overnight. You won't sort your weight loss journey overnight. So that is something we have to accept. But anyway, I hope this podcast has helped sort of trigger some things, and you're now going to go and start putting some things into place to create a healthier relationship with food. Because honestly, if you do that, you are going to be a much happier person, and that is going to be a great support for your weight loss journey. All details are in the description. If you want to come and work with me as your weight loss coach, if you want to come and join my community, if you just want to jump and have a browse around my website and see what I offer, there's loads of different bits and pieces on there. Everything's in the description. And until next time, as always, I hope you boss your weight loss.